Good evening. Today is October 1st, and this is the Traffic and Safety Commission for the Village of Villa Park. We have a special starting time today because we are going to have a special guest here, and she's going to give us some info on a few things. I'm going to have Bob introduce. Oh, wait.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Pincos. Sorry.
I guess maybe before we start to introduce her, we should have a roll call.
Yeah.
Cuthbertson.
Yes.
Di Tomaso.
Yes.
Flaskamp. Little.
Present.
McMurray. Carl Timmerman.
Here.
Karen Timmerman.
Yo.
Wagner.
Here?
Chairperson Pincos.
Here. Okay. Now Bob.
Okay. Well, our guest speaker from CMAP, the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, is Victoria Barrett. She is the Senior Transportation Planner for CMAP. She's co-founder and co-director of Go Evanston, and she received a master's in city, urban, community, and regional planning from the University of Colorado. And I know we're all so pleased to have her here today, and thank you.
Yes. And before we continue on with this, we're going to put our presentation here first before we get to the regular meeting in reference to it. It was so nice that she could come here and give us this presentation, and so we're going to move from there. But I thank everybody. And Victoria?
Great, thank you. Can everyone hear me? Is this on? I don't think I actually checked this.
It is on.
Okay, great. All right, let me go ahead and start slides.
Should we dim the light?
Okay, great. Well, good evening. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you all for showing up early for this presentation. I'm excited to be here. As Bob mentioned, I'm at CMAP, and I'm a transportation planner that works on policy issues related to traffic safety. So I'm in the right place here tonight at the Villa Park Traffic and Safety Commission. Thank you again for having me, and I'm here to share the findings from our recently published speed management report. So CMAP, back in the January of 2021, launched a 5-year-long safety program that was aimed to take proactive and preventative efforts, both related to planning and policy, to prevent roadway fatalities and serious injuries in our region. It's called the Safe Travel for All Roadmap, and it is multifaceted, and I think we now have 14 projects up and running under the STAR program, including some policy work, and this speed management report was one of our earliest projects in this effort. Before I jump into the speed management report, I want to take a minute and talk about the safe system approach to traffic safety. This is really informing all of the work that CMAP is doing right now, and it's been recently adopted by the FHWA and the U.S. Department of Transportation as a new, more comprehensive approach to addressing traffic safety. You all have probably heard of the E's of traffic safety: engineering, education, enforcement. This is kind of the 2.0 version of that, which is taking a systemic look at how we design our roads, how we educate the people who use them, how we manufacture and what safety features we include on vehicles, and how fast we set speeds on our roadways, and really look at these features comprehensively. You'll see around the edge of this diagram, and I won't go into every single one. I could talk about this diagram all day, but I will spare you that. It's really about being proactive. So traffic safety has always kind of been responsive to crash hotspots, and really now what we're looking at is what are risk factors on our roadways, even in places where crashes haven't occurred yet. What measures can we take to prevent a crash from happening there? And the safe system approach is really taken a lesson from the aviation industry, which uses a systemic approach to safety, and it's often compared to this Swiss cheese model of safety, which puts up layers, redundant layers of systems that will prevent a fatal or serious injury crash from happening. And you can see each of the layers of Swiss cheese in this diagram show safe road users, safe vehicles, safe speeds, safe roads, and quick post-crash care. And the idea is that you may get through one of these layers of safety, but you hopefully won't get through all the layers of safety, and that's when the system kind of fails. So back to our speed management report overview. It's kind of structured as both a very, very comprehensive description of the traffic safety crisis that we're in right now, as well as ways we can address speeding through safer roads, safer speeds, and safer road users. I always start these presentations with a little data overview. This is the United States numbers. And I apologize that I don't have 2022 on this chart yet. Those numbers are now available. But every year in this country, almost 43,000 people die on our roadways. That's the equivalent of a Boeing 777 crashing every week, leaving no survivors. You can imagine the response from the public and the media if that were happening. But because traffic crashes happen in different places, at different times, they don't get understood in the same way. So there has been a lack of urgency about roadway safety, and thankfully, the U.S. Department of Transportation has started something called the National Roadway Safety Strategy, which is a very proactive attempt to not just identify, but also fund changes in traffic safety in the United States. Oh, I'm sorry for the font issue here. Okay, so it might have some issues with some of the fonts on these slides. You can see these are the bars on the right, however, are accurate, and those show the numbers of fatalities in our region. So in northeastern Illinois, we have, over time, been seeing an increase in the number of people who are dying on our roadways. Generally, both nationally, statewide, and in our region, traffic fatalities declined for decades, starting in the 80s, and in 2014, they started to tick back up. There are a complex set of facts behind all of that, and I think we're always going to be seeking the answers to what happened there, but it might have something to do with the size of vehicles. The fleet size, the average size of vehicles in our fleet really increased in 2014. It's when SUVs represented more than 50% of the vehicle fleet. And it's also when a lot of people had handheld devices in their cars. Yes?
I'm just curious, why would you see the increase during COVID?
Oh, let's talk about COVID. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going the wrong way. Okay. Yes. And this was a pattern that happened also nationally, statewide, and in our region, which was a spike in traffic fatalities that started in 2020, and then really 2021 was record-breaking in terms of the number of fatalities. This is also a complex thing. One of the stories about what happened in COVID was that congestion was removed as a factor on a lot of our highways because of low levels of travel. Risk-taking increased. So for the first time, we saw an increase in the number of unrestrained passengers and occupants in cars. Seatbelt use has been pretty consistent in this region. Something happened in 2021 where people started to take not just risks with that, but risks with impairment, risks with speeding. So some people think it's a story of just an extreme amount of personal stress and, that people were experiencing and taking it out on kind of like aggressive driving trips. There is no single story to that. It's also very complicated, but that's kind of what happened. Thankfully, the numbers have started to come down from there. There was also a reduced amount of enforcement during the COVID years. Many police departments told their officers to not pull people over for fear of contracting COVID. And so there were lots of very unusual factors that kind of created a perfect storm of crashes. And I will note that throughout history, the amount of travel that people have done has always been positively correlated with the number of fatal and serious crashes. But COVID actually broke that. So we saw a reduced amount of travel and an increase in fatalities and serious injuries. So it was the first time that kind of coupling changed. It's back now. There's also a story that it was risk-taking people that decided to make trips during COVID. Many people were just staying at home, and so maybe the population that was driving was a population that was more, had a higher propensity to take risks. It's all kinds of theories out there. We'll see research about that for years, I'm sure. Another important data point is bicycle and pedestrian fatalities in our region. These have also been trending upwards over time, and particularly concerning because bicyclists and pedestrians are not protected by the shell of a vehicle. These are sometimes people who cannot drive or don't own a vehicle, and we refer to them often as vulnerable road users, and we're seeing those numbers increase.
Can I just make a?
Please.
If you look at that, wasn't that 21 was the highest on pedestrian and bicyclists?
Yes.
And also 21 was for vehicles?
Yes. Yes.
Correlation?
Statistics?
The total fatalities includes the bicycle and pedestrian fatalities, so they've been coupled out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Another really emerging story about traffic safety in this country is the extent to which Black residents, this is nationally, statewide, and in our region, are overrepresented in traffic fatalities. Again, Nothing with Safety is like a simple story, but we have a couple theories about what's happening here. One is, and many of you may have received CMAP's My Daily Travel survey, where we ask residents to report how they travel throughout the region and how much they travel. And we know from that data, from the last time we did that survey, that Black residents in our region travel longer distances and for longer periods of time every day to access healthcare appointments, schools, jobs. So there's an exposure story here. They're likely exposed to traffic safety risks at a disproportionate level. They are also, according to the CMAP data, more likely to use modes that are considered vulnerable. So bicyclist, pedestrian, accessing transit by those modes. Again, another factor that kind of puts an increased risk on the population using it. It's also true that many of our most dangerous roads are located in communities of color. So it's a story that requires a broad understanding of like long-term societal issues, and it is a key factor, and I'll talk about safety action plans from the U.S. Department of Transportation at the end of this. It's an issue that we are trying to address through safety action planning. And then finally, I'll just close. It doesn't have to be this way. The United States is an outlier in the number of fatalities per 100,000 inhabitants, with peer countries like Canada and Australia that have similar land use patterns and also similar amounts of travel. We are a little bit higher on the amount of travel that we do per capita, but other, we've come to accept roadway fatalities in the United States, and really it's time to stop doing that. And that's what Vision Zero and the Road to Zero is really about. Okay, now to speeding and its role in safety. So this was an effort. We knew that speeding was a major issue in this region. It's an issue everywhere, and it's also very hard to capture when people file crash reports. So we believe that speeding is actually underreported as a contributing factor in fatal and serious crashes. But we know, at least according to the crash data we have, that it was a factor in 46% of fatal crashes in our region from 2017 to 2021. And in an effort to understand where speeding was causing the most issues, we looked at it a couple different ways. We isolated it by jurisdiction, so IDOT roads versus county roads versus local roads, and we didn't really find anything too compelling. But when we assigned speeding-related crashes to the posted speed limit on that road, we were really surprised at what we found. So fatal, these are the most deadly crashes, serious and fatal crashes, are happening on roads with a posted speed limit of 30 miles per hour. Not 65, not 60, but our urban roads.
So we should raise all our speed limits?
Right. Another point I like to make with this chart is that that doesn't mean that the vehicles were traveling 30 miles per hour. It's just trying to describe the type of street on which we are seeing speeding-related crashes. And we know that 30 miles per hour is a pretty dangerous speed if you happen to be unfortunate enough to be struck by a vehicle going that speed. At 30 miles per hour, a pedestrian struck by the car will have a 45% chance of dying from that crash. When you drop that speed down to 20 miles per hour, a pedestrian has a 95% chance of surviving the crash. So speed really impacts the severity and the outcomes of crashes. And when we look at different examples of roads that have a 30 mile per hour posted speed limit, you can see they are very complex places. They are places where lots of activities are happening. They are places where, kids are riding their bikes to school in the lower left photo. There are people shopping. There are people crossing the street. There are bicycles sharing the road. These are complex spaces, and that might be part of what's happening that's making that 30 mile per hour posted speed limit so dangerous. When we talk about the risks associated with speeding, one profound one is that it really decreases your field of vision the faster you drive. So your brain kind of shuts off your peripheral view as you go faster and faster, which removes your ability to detect hazards that are approaching, whether that's a car pulling out of a driveway or a ball bouncing into the street. You really have less of a view to the side to detect an issue. And higher speeds increase the distance that's required for a driver to stop a vehicle. The green part here on the chart shows the perception time to actually identify that you need to stop your car, and that's made longer by the picture I just showed, which is your peripheral vision. And then the blue line is the braking distance required for each of those speeds. So you can see, if you look down at the miles per hour, the vehicle speeds are on the left column. And if you look at 30 miles per hour, it takes over 100 feet to react to a hazard and brake a car. And bring a car to a stop. I'm going to talk quickly about kinetic energy. We'll take a trip back to the last physics class you took, but kinetic energy is the damaging force that is delivered by a vehicle in a collision, and kinetic energy is a function of both the object's speed and the object's weight. So, what we are about to learn is that vehicles today are actually becoming heavier and not lighter. So this is data from the EPA that shows the years 1975, 2000, and 2001 or 2021 on the left, and then the percentage of each size of vehicle. So in 1975, when a lot of our speed limits were set, 81% of the fleet were sedans. Today, in 2021, and I don't have the most recent numbers, but only 26% of our fleet are sedans anymore. We have a vast majority that are SUVs and trucks and minivans. There is also a story emerging about the weight of electric cars. Cars with batteries are often much heavier than their gas-powered counterparts. Heavier vehicles traveling at lower speeds deliver the same kinetic energy as in a crash as lighter vehicles traveling at higher speeds. So that kinetic energy kind of spectrum, and this is a little bit of a wonky graph, so I apologize, but what we wanted to do was kind of map the difference in weight of vehicles. So the F-150, the Ford F-150 Lightning is the electric version of the Ford F-150, and it is almost 3,000 pounds heavier than its gas-powered counterpart because of the battery. So it's coming in at almost 7,000 pounds, and the Toyota Camry is, about half of that weight, a traditional gas-powered Toyota Camry. We're just trying to bracket the extremes of these different things, and you can see at the same kinetic energy, which is between 2 and 3 million joules of energy. The blue line, which is the Ford, is closer to 20 miles per hour, which is the bottom chart, the bottom line. And the Toyota Camry can travel almost 30 miles per hour, and they will deliver the same kinetic energy. And the point here is really just to look at the risks in our urban districts right now that are posed by larger vehicles, and that we really might need to evaluate the speed limits that we consider safe these days. Yes.
Have you looked at the condition of the roads? Because if you're traveling, you want to avoid a pothole, you may swerve into the bike lane.
Yes, yes. We'll talk a little bit about that. Pavement condition is a complicated
mostly urban
story.
areas.
Yeah, it is. This is brand new research that didn't make it into the paper, but there's the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety recently published another dimension of kind of larger vehicles that we didn't realize was as lethal as it is. But when your hood is more than 40 inches off the ground, you're 45% more likely to kill a pedestrian that you strike. So that's another story between sedans and SUVs. Sedans, they would maybe hit you in your legs and break your legs, which is terrible, but they weren't fatal crashes. When you hit a pedestrian or even another driver in something that's higher up in their body, then it's more likely to be fatal trauma. So trying to just kind of understand how safe vehicles, what are we doing in the vehicle sphere to help or hinder traffic safety. And then finally, I'll just talk about the value in managing speeds. So this is a little different than the chart that showed the pedestrian and the fatality risk. This is the expected decrease in pedestrian fatality risk if everyone on the road is driving 1 mile less than 30 miles per hour. So it's kind of a thought exercise, but really the calculations were based on crash modification factors from the Crash Modification Clearinghouse, and the decrease in pedestrian fatality risk is quite high, 17% decrease in pedestrian fatality risk just by having the cars drive 29 miles per hour. Now, how do we get cars to drive 29 miles per hour? That's the tricky part. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the key findings and recommendations from the report, and then I will have a QR code for you to download. You can go read all 80 pages of the captivating report. The first recommendation is in the category of roadway design. So what can we do to improve roadway design that encourages compliance with speed limits and also reduces the need for us to travel so much? So aside from the COVID outlier, the more travel that occurs, the more traffic fatalities that we see. So how can we make places and encourage local trips so that there is less automobile travel? So thinking about individual places more holistically through land use improvements and jobs, housing balance, but then also looking at actual roadway design features. I'm going to show you some pictures after this. We are also in our agency looking at changing, improving the way that we score projects based on roadway design. And we're also doing project level design guidance through our local technical assistance that's focused on discouraging speeding. So when we talk about design features that manage speeding and improve safety, these are all proven safety countermeasures from the Federal Highway Administration. All of these features have the impact of improving speed limit compliance and reducing overall average speeds. They are multi-pronged benefits to these features. A roundabout not only slows down turning movements, but it also decreases the kinetic energy in crashes by creating multiple vectors. So when your vehicle is turning, the force is being spread out across some different directions, and the crashes tend to be lower in severity. Road reconfigurations, sometimes called right-sizing roads or road diets, have been shown to reduce the incidence of speeding. Pedestrian features, paint on the road, narrowing of intersections, all of those features really signal to drivers that you are in a lower speed environment. And there are many experiments and much research now. The body of research on this is quite robust at this point. And then bicycle infrastructure, diverters and bicycle protections. You can see these like bollards, and if you've driven in the city lately, you'll see they've got these left turn hardening kind of like bollards in the middle of the road designed to make turning movements tighter. They are slowing down turning movements. And of course, we know intersections are the most dangerous places for pedestrians. So when those turns happen at slower speeds, there's a better chance that the pedestrian will survive the crash. The other body of recommendations, and there are more in the report, but really supporting this idea that lower speed limits in urbanized areas are appropriate. These are the places where people are walking, biking, and using transit, the places where children are accessing schools, where older Americans are living near senior centers and downtown areas. Reduced speed limits really are appropriate, and many cities have taken measures to do that. It doesn't work in isolation to reduce speed limits, of course. You want to couple it with that roadway design. But we're working with partners to really identify opportunities to make it even easier for locals to reduce speed limits. And I'll just note, the one note here is the dark blue states on this map are the states that still have a 30-mile-per-hour urban district speed limit. The light blue and the medium blue states have lower urban district speed limits of either 20 miles per hour or 25 miles per hour. So it was interesting to do this research and find out that Illinois is actually in the minority when it comes to maintaining a 30-mile-per-hour urban district speed limit. And finally, the final body of recommendations is about improving driver behavior, both with a more comprehensive and robust education program and equitable enforcement practices. So part of this is adopting the safe system approach locally to really make sure that at every level we are looking at the feedback systems that happen between enforcement and design and speed limits so that everyone's talking about it with all of the angles into safety that are needed. We are also looking to promote enforcement techniques that have really been shown to improve driver behavior, reduce speeds proactively, and advance equity. So the old-fashioned speed traps where somebody catches you, oopsies, I just missed. The old-fashioned speed traps where the gotcha kind of approach doesn't actually slow down drivers in advance of causing an issue. Whereas the high visibility enforcement practices where police are fully present, fully visible, there's social media and all kinds of media campaigns announcing their presence, Those are things that reduce people's driving speeds proactively and preventatively. And when coupled with educational programs like pulling drivers over to educate them on the risks of speeding, then you've kind of just closed the loop on why the enforcement program is actually in place. And then finally, this is something that CMAP's kind of digging into now. We hope to have more on this in the coming months or the year, is about creating a traffic safety culture for our region. And that's a complex thing. It's something that maybe existed when some of us were growing up, those of us who are a little bit older, but really aligning social norms around traffic safety and what safe speeds are, and making sure that those social norms are delivered to all levels of society in the same way across all aspects of our life. So it's aligning the messaging that people are giving to their children in the home, the ones that are happening in the school, even in the workplace, talking about traffic safety and what are acceptable social norms, using that also in the programs like I just mentioned with police, and then in community events in places like this, and really making clear guidance and reinforcing it at every level. Let's see. Whoops, I think I skipped a slide. Yes. Oh, it doesn't want to stay on that slide. Let's see. Okay, all right, there we are. That QR code will take you to the download for both of the speed management. The white one is the executive summary. Highly recommend that one. The blue one is the full report, which has a lot of great data and supporting documentation and research if you're interested in any one of the topics. And that is the end of the speed management report. I was going to talk a little bit about some other CMAP work, but I'm happy to take questions or comments before I jump into more safety.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Does all of this many pages include suggestions for low-cost, high-impact, easy-to-implement changes that small communities with low budgets would be able to implement quickly and easily?
We have started to develop that guidance as part of this Safe Travel for All action plan. It's a slightly different package in terms of the product that it is. So we've been working with engineers and other municipalities who have been doing quick build, what can you do with a can of paint, ways to calm traffic and narrow intersections. And that is actually going to be part of the safety action plans that we're working on now, which I can jump into, but I'm happy to take more questions too.
I have a question.
Yes.
Does the education part of this include educating bicyclists and pedestrians? Coming here tonight, I have to turn left on the St. Charles Road. Had I not, and I'm a professional driver, had I not been quick enough and watching enough, I would have hit a bicycle that had dark clothing, no reflectors on the clothing, no light on the bicycle, nothing.
Yeah.
I did not see him until he entered the view of my headlights. So the education for them also, like, people need to know what side of the street to walk on. You don't walk with traffic, you walk against it. So you can see what's coming at you. That education needs to be included, I would think.
Most places, I would say, in this country are missing an opportunity to educate people in schools, starting at a young age, about basic traffic safety and rules of the road. Many of those programs have fallen away over the years. They are happening kind of on an ad hoc level, and COVID took a couple of them out of commission seemingly permanently. So we are There is an effort by Ride Illinois to bring a bicycle and pedestrian safety curriculum into the schools. Every child deserves that curriculum, in my opinion. And we shouldn't just think that traffic safety is for people who want to get driver's licenses, which is currently often the only time in our lives when we are given traffic safety curriculum. So we need a more comprehensive, multi-aged, you get different,
And I agree with that. My other point is they talk about narrowing lanes. You have to think about the larger vehicles that have to be on the road. School buses.
Yes.
I drive a school bus.
yes,
Those lanes get too narrow and it's going to hinder and make it worse.
yes,
I drive every day through the industrial section of Edison. You narrow those too much and all of those UPS trucks, FedEx trucks, Amazon, it's going to make it worse. They can't get too narrow.
yes, you're right.
You can't make a turn.
I think all buses and trucks require a minimum of 11-foot lanes, and I think 12 is actually recommended for vehicles of that size. Some of the opportunities to narrow lanes, I don't know if you're familiar with some of these like 1.5 lane roads that sometimes function as 2 lanes and sometimes function as 1 lane, depending on whether cars are parked or not. So tightening up roads that have poor definition, and I don't know, I'm not sure if there's any here, but there are plenty around the region where they have little excess space, whether that's a shoulder or something, but that's an opportunity for something like painted lines. Painted lines can actually just help drivers feel a little bit more confined. Yeah.
One other thing in regards to, because we drive for the same bus company, we didn't know we were going to be here together. I've got one particular intersection that's in Lombard where the only way I can make the right turn off of that street that I'm on, which is Westmore Myers, at High Ridge.
Oh, wow.
If I'm going north and turning east, I can't get around that corner without either hitting the stoplight, hitting the telephone pole, running over a curb that's this high in the bus, or stopping on the street and waiting and have everybody come up behind me if the left turn lane to go south off of High Ridge has got a cover in it. You can't do it.
You can't.
If I can pull into the lane to the left of me, which is going the same direction, I maybe can make it without hitting the curb. Maybe. And so many of the curbs for buses, big trucks, they're too sharp. They need to be flared more so that we can get around those corners.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tricky balance at intersections to accommodate large vehicles and keep pedestrians safe. That sounds like an opportunity for looking at a recessed stop bar so that maybe the left turn lane is held back at a further distance from the intersection to make the turning radius a little bit. It's my anecdotal without knowing what it's looking at. But there are some creative options out there to try to do it all. And they require a lot of thought. And paint is a great place to start with that while people experiment with different traffic calming methods.
Real quick, I just want one quick question. You may want to try and take that up with Lombard Traffic and Safety. I drive big trucks too, and I know with the school bus, if you swing out far enough, you've got a counter swing that's a killer on that right lane. You may want to bring that up to Lombard and have them address that.
I've already,
Is it Lombard or is it?
That's Lombard.
It's Lombard.
That's Lombard, but I'm just saying, I'm extremely familiar with that intersection and that issue.
roads are county responsibility, and Lombard and Malheur.
Right, just bring up the point though, on a bus, because there's a high route, that's a high traffic area for buses. The counter swing is deadly for the right lane. So, okay, sorry.
I have a question about your situation. have you talked to the bus company about maybe changing the route that you're supposed to be taking? Just until something can be.
There's no way to avoid that
to Willowbrook
corner.
High School.
There is
Yeah,
you gotta get to
absolutely
To Willowbrook High School, you got no choice.
Right. Ardmore and one is off of West.
Right, and I'm considering that possibility, and I know you don't want to do this, would be to go down to Jackson and take that over to Ardmore. And then you'd avoid that intersection. And I'm saying this just until something can be done about the intersection.
That relates to another, the reason.
Then you have to pass by Jackson Middle School, I know.
And also that affects the time of our routes.
And that's why I say
If we're
maybe,
going down, and it's not that we don't want to do it, it's that if I do that, then I'm late getting to Willowbrook and the bus company can get penalized when the buses get there late.
right, no, I understand all
So
that, I do.
it's a lose-lose.
Well, as I say, if you bring it up to management, they can adjust your schedule accordingly. And, you know, it sounds to me like you have
Not
an
unless the
absolute.
district allows it.
That's correct. District's got to allow it.
The district has to allow it.
And that one of the district's concern is we can only have the kids on the bus for an hour.
Jake?
So if we start adding time to the route, we either have to find more drivers that we don't have now,
Right.
or we have to,
Break up the road.
you take a risk that you're gonna add a more unsafe route than you would. In other words, I could come down and turn on Roosevelt Road to go east and go to Summit and come back that way. But now I have to make a left turn across 3 lanes of traffic at a stoplight, however. But if that stoplight's red, that adds 5 minutes easy to that route.
There you go.
Assuming that I can make the right turn at High Ridge and Westmore Myers at a green, I don't go through green lights. And all I get is the friendly people waving their finger at me or sitting in a lane of traffic that, when I got right up to it tonight, was open and I thought I could make the turn and somebody pulls into the left lane and I'm done.
May I interrupt here for a second? That we can address a little bit more with our Traffic and Safety Committee, with our presentation here and everything else. If there's anything you want to direct to our guest that maybe she can answer or something, I would like to focus in on that, and then we can extensively go on to the other portion of that.
The only thing I would like to have an opportunity to mention something to you that I sent to my federal congressman the other day. Got a response back from a member of his staff who thought it was a great idea, but the political capital to do that would probably be such that he's not touching it.
Understand?
If you want me to tell you what I came up with, that's up to you.
Well, yeah, I rather, if you have any other questions in reference to the presentation that we just had, that's where I would like to focus in at the moment, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
Thank you.
I do have a question about this. Now, I noticed on one of the points that you bring up is mass transportation. And I think that particularly here in the suburbs, it's quite lacking. Is there any plans in the work there? For instance, just something I've always thought, when they build an expressway, why don't they put in tracks?
Yeah.
To all coincide with that particular avenue, because obviously there's a point for why that road goes that way.
Yeah.
So is there anything that,
I mean, transit is the safest mode. I'm going to say that right now. It is the safest way to travel. Trained drivers and vehicles are all built for safety. You know, the transit story is a big one right now in our region because we have a funding gap that we're trying to fill. And CMAP's really closely involved, wrote a report for identifying ways to kind of look into the solvency of our transit system and re-envision what it needs to be for our region. And with an eye towards, you know, making it really usable for people, even if you live outside of the city. And what does that look like? And how do we foster development patterns that can really serve transit well? That means, you know, centers of density and shopping where, you kind of create, lively centers of activity where you would get the kind of ridership that would really benefit from increased transit. So it's a scaffolding issue. It's very complicated. CMAP works on transit. It's our I will say our passion project that we're working on right now to increase the viability of transit and the solvency of transit and the usefulness. Definitely part of the safety story.
Bob, I believe you have a question?
Yeah, Victoria, of course, speed is the big issue. I know there was legislation in the General Assembly to allow communities to lower the minimum speed. What happened to that legislation? Did it pass, or?
So right now, local municipalities have the ability to reduce their speed limit by ordinance citywide. That is available.
Home rule and non-home rule?
I think it's all municipalities. That does not affect the speed limits on state-owned roads, which are often the roads with the highest crash rates in local communities. So it is not a perfect solution to what communities might need, but until this, that's me being hopeful, but as we start to identify whether 30 miles per hour is an appropriate speed limit for urban districts in Illinois, we will be working with state partners to understand what it would take to make all roads 25 miles per hour inside urban districts.
Is 83 a state-owned road?
Yes.
Yes.
But St. Charles is not?
No.
Correct.
Correct.
What, I'm sorry?
That's county.
County, okay, thank you, I'm
Right.
sorry.
No, St. Charles.
St. Charles is
Charles
in
is
Villa
us.
Park is a Villa Park
I thought it
road.
was.
St. Charles is us.
It's a local road or a county road?
It's a local road.
Okay,
It's a
yes.
local road,
So
yes.
it would affect that,
I
yeah.
thought it was county.
West of 53.
Oh, okay.
So I would like to go back to how we build our roads. Because when you look at the European countries that have a low fatality rate, they build their roads completely different than how we build our roads. Have we looked at how, the standards of how we build our roads? Because I can tell you, we were in Europe this summer, and, last summer I should say, and Sweden had, what, a 2.1? Yeah, completely different. Those things are built in Germany, completely different.
Yeah.
Of how they build those roads. They do not have the potholes.
Yeah.
They do not have the issues that we have with our roads. They don't need to rebuild their roads every 5 years and redo those things. They don't have the cracks. They still have the snow. They still have how they treat their roads. What are they doing differently than we are?
Yeah.
Aren't they usually driving smaller vehicles?
But that's what I'm saying, but what are they doing different? What is the difference? We need to understand what the hell that is. That's fine. I mean, because I did see some big, right. I mean, they had some big, right.
Smaller vehicles.
They did have some larger vehicles, especially with trucks and so forth and so on, that was there. But it's like, what is the difference? I mean, why is the Autobahn? I mean, you can drive super fast on them, but they don't have to redo it every 5 years, every 3 years, or whatever it may be. How many times do we have traffic? How many times do we have construction? We have what, two seasons?
Yes,
Winter and construction.
winter and construction.
So why do we have to consistently rebuild our roads? Why are we consistently putting money into our roads? Because we don't build them correctly. So what are we looking at in that respect?
We could
Sorry.
talk all night about, there's a lot to talk about there. I think one of the ways that I think about it is that we have roads that serve for mobility, roads that are meant to take you from one place to another place, and that's a highway in America, or, even a state highway between towns in a rural area. And then you have roads that are meant to serve the businesses or the houses that are on it, and we call that access. So you either build roads for access to places or mobility to get through places. And one of the flaws in the way we have designed our roads is we have combined those two things in the form of urban arterials, where we expect cars to be traveling fast along them and have businesses and driveways every 20, 30 feet. And the blending of those two missions is kind of an impossible problem to, we're never going to have the separation of the types of roads that they have gotten really good at in Europe, where you have a local residential road, super low speed, it looks completely different from the road that gets you around the center of town, which is, like a ring road or something. So it's a little bit about land use and how far away we build stuff and how many parking spaces we put there and encourage automobile travel. It's a complex thing, but let's get coffee and talk about it.
Okay, we're, have
Sorry.
one more question, and then we're gonna have to start wrapping it up.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I appreciate that you mentioned Ride Illinois, because they do have the bike safety quiz.
Yes.
And there is a opportunity for school districts to make a little money if they get their students to take the bike safety quiz. And I think there's a requirement for school districts to develop a curriculum for bike safety.
Yes.
And School District 45 has started to do that. And I just want to correct one fallacy. Bicyclists ride with traffic,
Right.
not against it.
You walk against
traffic.
traffic.
Okay.
That's what I said.
Okay, I misheard you, I apologize.
You have to obey all
Understood.
traffic rules, and that's something that needs to be taught, because you see them fly through every stop sign, don't fly through.
That's me.
traffic.
Are we looking at any legislation for an Idaho stop in Illinois?
There have been a couple attempts to pass such legislation.
What is that?
When?
And
I think
Idaho,
last year.
So since the 80s, Idaho has allowed bicyclists to treat a stop sign as a yield sign and a stop light as a stop sign. And more states are, because the top speed on a bicycle is 20 miles an hour. And also, if you crash into somebody with a bicycle, probably they'll be annoyed, but they definitely won't be dead. So there's a lot of states are moving to allow what they call an Idaho stop.
They often refer to it as stop as yield laws. So that means that bicyclists may treat a stop sign as a yield sign when no other cars are present. And they may proceed through a red traffic light when no other cars are present because they don't trigger the the signal.
So this isn't the white line around it means it's optional?
Right, no.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds horrible. They're doing that in what, Colorado?
All
We do
over
a lot
the
of
Idaho.
A lot of
states.
states
Yeah,
have
we do a
made
lot of
it.
states.
It's been the law in Idaho since the
been a lot of
80s,
states.
but there's more and more places that are implementing.
Horrible.
Well, as a cyclist, it can be frustrating to have to come to a full and complete stop at every stop sign when no cars are present.
Well, but we've
So-
got the Prairie Path, we've got the Great Western Right-of-Way that go from Chicago all the way to West Chicago. I
Which
mean,
is
Yeah,
not
but there's still a lot of
helpful.
stop signs.
This
Okay.
is just horrible. I can envision these guys flying down Madison Avenue across Westmore, thinking there's no one else around, and bam, there is a car around. A car that just pulled out of St. Pius parking lot, and boom, they're gonna get hit.
Okay, that's getting into a little bit more deep stuff that we,
Just to go
Victoria.
record, it's not.
Yes.
I don't think we can end up discussing at this
No, that's
point.
okay.
And just add on top of that, it's not implemented here in Illinois yet.
Oh, I know.
And I think
It's
we're
not.
close.
And it has, and it has not, it's not passed. It's been introduced a few times and has not passed. It is, what I will mention is that we are doing a major regional traffic safety initiative right now called the Safe Travel for All program. And DuPage County is doing a traffic safety action plan for all of the county, all the roads in the county. And I have a QR code here that will take you on the right there to the Safe Travel for All online engagement. There's a survey for all residents, and you can pick the DuPage County plan. We're doing them in Cook and Lake and Kane and McHenry and Will counties as well. There's a map for you to indicate locations of concern when it comes to traffic safety, and we'll be posting materials up there. And there will be engagement events happening over the course of the next year to talk to people at local events about traffic safety. So reach out to CMAP if you want to get involved.
Victoria, I want to thank you for your presentation, taking your time to come up here, or down here, I think it really is.
Over?
Over. So, very informative. I was glad you could be able to do this for us. I think the public enjoyed it too. And of course, we're YouTubing this too, and it should be on our local TV channel, I believe, or YouTube channel. So,
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Let's then move on. We had our call to order, roll call. We're moving on to item number 4. Amendments to agenda. Do we have any amendments to the agenda?
Nope.
Okay, I see none. So, do we just want to call these people up first, or just? We're going to start with talking about public comments on agenda items. We have Donna Knoxon. If you could come up here and talk what you want to talk about. It's crosswalks at Ardmore and Lufkin.
Correct.
Okay. Before we go any further, everybody else that's going to be talking, we like to try to limit this to about 3-4 minutes max. So,
Of course.
if that's no problem, okay.
10A Ardmore and Lufkin Crossing, perhaps at Van Buren. 3 of the things that I picked up on our slideshow, fatalities at a lower speed. We all know Ardmore is not a high-speed street. Another thing they brought up was the field of vision. You're going to have better vision at 15%, at 15 miles an hour than you are at 35. And another thing, heavier vehicles traveling at lower speeds. Those are 3 factors. I know of one child that's been hit in the first 3 weeks of Lufkin Park being open. He's between 9 and 10 years old, so it's not like he doesn't know how to cross the street. We need to draw attention to this. That park's only going to get busier. And we just had the homecoming parade, and I literally saw a mom have to stop and let her 4 children go and stand in the middle of the street. Van Buren doesn't have sidewalks, so I don't know if we could implement a sidewalk or if we could put the cones up like Lombard, that you must stop when pedestrians are present. But I think this needs to be addressed sooner than later and just not shoveled back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's crucial with the kids there, and I don't know if anyone's seen Lufkin on any given day. It's crazier than crazier.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
And of course, this is an agenda item that will be discussed later today, so.
I do have one quick question. Ms. Knoxon,
Donna?
Donna?
you mentioned an incident in which a child was hit. We asked our police department to look into that. They came back with a report of a child on a bicycle being hit, but no pedestrian crashes.
It was, I'm not going to give the kid's name out, but he was between 9 and 10 years old. I don't know if he was on bicycle. I just
Okay.
know he was hit.
Okay, it's just if there is a crash report that we are not, we've not gotten, we'd like to make sure we can track it down.
I can give you the name of that
Okay.
person.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Donna.
Okay, anybody else in reference to agenda items that would like to talk? Okay, we'll move on to item number 6, public comments on non-agenda items. I'm just gonna pick this just the way that's in my order here. Tina? Again, please remember 3 to 4 minutes.
Hi, my name's Tina. I live on Princeton Avenue, over here, North Princeton, where the frontage road is by the bridge, the Ardmore Bridge. I just wanted to call attention to the parents in the morning bringing their kids to school, because I do live on Princeton and Ridge on the corner, so my house faces not facing Princeton, but my address is Princeton. It's one way in the morning for when the parents are coming to drop off their kids. Parents, a lot of times, are late, and I understand that. I had 3 kids of my own. However, they do not stop at the stop sign on Princeton before turning left to head towards the school, unless a police officer is parked there. Also, they park on the road to walk their kids to the school. They're parking on both sides, and school buses can't get through the middle. They also park and have numerous times blocked our driveway where we're trying to get out to leave for work, and we've had to kind of literally drive through our lawn down the curb to get past them because they don't want to stop. And so I just want to call to attention that I think people should just slow down. Please don't block people's driveways. Only park on one side so the buses can get through. And I don't know if there's anything we can do about having, I know there's no cross guard there for people who are walking. And I know occasionally there's a police officer there once in a while. I don't know if something can be done about that or not, but,
Okay.
Ask a question.
Sure.
You say once in a while there's a police officer there. Is he in his car? Is he directing traffic?
usually he's parked in his car, yeah. And then when the parents approaching the stop sign on North Princeton see him, they stop, and, yeah. And nobody parks on the right-hand side, they only park on the left. But there was a time that we were outside and literally a bus couldn't get through the middle, and, you know, me and my husband are out there now trying to go, whose car is this? You guys aren't supposed to be parked on that side. The bus driver can't get through. You know, he's trying to get these kids to school, and now the bus driver can't get through, and so, yeah, it's a little bit chaotic over there. But parking and blocking the driveways, because there's only 2 houses that face that way, my house and the other house on the corner, so it's kind of odd. But yeah, it's a safety hazard, that's all. I'm just asking parents to be a little more respectful of the homeowners there, you know, don't block our driveways and slow down.
Have you talked to the school at all?
I have not.
I would suggest talking to the school. We
Okay.
had this situation at other schools.
Okay.
And basically, I believe, we're talking, this is North School, am I correct?
Correct, by the hill, where everybody sits for fireworks, yes, correct.
Yes. Basically, we, many years ago, probably at least, 6 years ago, we have been, talked with the principal over at the school there
Okay.
to try to correct traffic problems that have developed over there. We haven't heard from them since then, so we just assumed it's all been
Yeah.
taken care of.
It's a small area over there.
But if you do talk, call the school
Okay.
and talk to them about the concerns and what has happened, they sometimes send out information through the kids back to the parents.
Okay.
And we can see what happens with that. Occasionally, our police department goes to all the different schools in the Villa Park in our jurisdiction, and they try to be there during, especially during drop-off at the
Right.
morning, to hopefully control these problems with the parking and obviously not paying attention to the stop sign if they're rolling through the stop sign
Right.
and stuff. But unfortunately, we only have a limited amount of police
Right.
officers, so they rotate and go around and they park in different spots around the school vicinities and stuff.
I didn't know if, like, the village is in charge of telling the schools about crossing guards, maybe if they put a crossing guard with a sign, or, you know.
The schools are totally in control of all the crossing
Okay.
guards.
Okay, perfect.
So you
I
can
will
talk
get
to
in
them
touch
if
with
you, they can look into it and see if they need to have a crossing guard over there. So,
Okay.
but we'll take a note and we'll pass this on to the
I
police
appreciate
department.
that. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Too close. Just like we talked about.
Jim, would you like to come up and talk about non-agenda items? Thank you.
Yeah, as you probably know, I'm a bus driver. Do both District 88 schools, Willowbrook and Addison Trail. Both of them have the same issues from a bus driver standpoint, but it's also for anybody who uses Ardmore and maybe High Ridge, because those are the only two access points into Willowbrook. I won't even deal with Addison Trail because we don't have, it's not yours and we don't have to worry about it. My question was simply, has the village, has your commission looked at the possibility of putting a right turn lane at the southbound intersection of Ardmore and High Ridge and at the intersection of Ardmore and where Reardon dead ends into the entrance, the south entrance into the school? What would appear to me maybe something that would be less expensive, because obviously you have to decide, does the amount of traffic, does the backup justify spending money for those types of additions, which would be right turn lanes. The good news is you don't have a stoplight there. You don't have, I don't know what's buried underground in the parkway there next to. At High Ridge, you've got 3 trees that might have to be removed from the parkway. At Reardon, you have none. It would be simple to put a right turn lane to get some of the traffic off of Ardmore that, being a bus driver, sometimes, especially in inclement weather, it's almost impossible to get onto Ardmore other than if you're on Ardmore. In other words, if you're coming east from Summit and you're going west, you can't make a left turn because a lot of times the traffic is backed up. If it's backed up at Reardon, it may be backed up all the way to High Ridge. And High Ridge, I have seen, is backed up on the other side of Jackson. Not every morning and not all times, but when kids are going to school in inclement weather, all the parents or all the kids driving to school that aren't on a school bus, and it can take 10, 15 minutes just to get into the school when you're 3 blocks away. So that's my only thought. Has that been considered? I know you'd probably need a traffic study. You would probably need engineering study. Traffic study, obviously, first to see if you can even justify it. And then an engineering study to see what would be required. And then obviously you need money. So, thank you. That's all I wanted to bring to your attention.
Okay. Go ahead.
Just a couple quick questions. I guess maybe first things first, a right turn lane from southbound Ardmore onto westbound High Ridge is something that's been been suggested, and something that staff had planned to pursue with an upcoming project. Just so I understand correctly, though, so the school buses all enter Willowbrook from High Ridge Road, isn't that correct?
No.
No, okay.
There are, if you're coming from the west, you enter High Ridge, there is a road that runs on the west side that goes over by the football field that you can access. They don't encourage us to do that. We can come out that way, but they don't want us to go in. You can also access through, I don't know what they call the street, but it's the one that comes up to door number 1, which is the main entrance on the east side of the school. Those are 2 of the ways off of High Ridge to get in. The third way to get in is only off of Ardmore at Reardon.
So there are school buses that use the Ardmore at Reardon intersection to get into Willowbrook?
Not typically dropping off in the morning.
Okay.
That entrance can be used when we do extracurricular bus service, typically in the evenings for sporting events, other things. We can use that entrance. We pull into door 5 or door 6, and we can come in from that direction.
Those are by the rock?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. And if we come in off of the High Ridge East entrance to door 1, there is a turnaround there, and we have to go back out that. They don't let us typically go, they don't let us take the buses into the parking lot because that's backed up by, and we'd never get out.
Okay, thank you. I think that answers all of the questions I had.
Okay. Thanks for your consideration, letting
Thank
me
you.
present that. Thank you.
Laura?
Or Laura?
No. Laurel. Laurel. I'm sorry?
No, that's okay. I just didn't want to come up here if there was a
No,
Laura
no,
here
no.
waiting to
I
come up.
apologize. Quickly.
I was here last month asking about the parking on Wildwood, and I don't know who cut back the trees. I don't know if the county came out or if the city came out or what. So for the time being, it's easier to get in and out of your cars. But to me, that's just a temporary fix. Those trees are going to grow back. The bushes are going to grow back. And in a few months, we're right back where we started from. I really do not understand why parking cannot be put back where it was on the north side of the street. On east of Villa, on Wildwood, they still park on the north side of the street. West of Villa, just past the old Lions where they're building the whole new thing, couple blocks worth, they still park on the north side of the street. Why are we singled out to park on the other side of the street? It is more dangerous. It is very easy for somebody to come off of that path, come right down to your car, get into your car and go right back up onto the path and they're gone. We've been put in a hazardous situation by changing this parking. And I really and truly do not understand why it can't be put back where it was. We were told when you did it that it was for parking on Villa Avenue. No one parks at Charles and Wildwood and then walks all the way back down to Villa. There's plenty of parking on Villa now. There's a whole big parking lot around Cortese Park, behind D'Amato's, whatever it's called. There's the parking over by the Historic Museum. I don't understand why you think someone's going to drive all the way down to Charles Avenue on Wildwood and then walk 6 blocks back to Villa. That makes no sense. And let me tell you, no one does it. No one does it. The only ones that park there are us, our neighbors, and the neighbors across the street from us park on Charles in front of their homes. I can't park there because there's always neighbors parked there. And we just want it put back the way it was. There's no need for it to be the way it is now. When the snow falls, not going to be able to get out of the car because the bushes will have grown more and then the snow is there. It just makes no sense to us, and I don't know how to go about getting this change made. Especially when you consider until they cut back those bushes, we were put in a hazardous position. I couldn't get out of my school bus that I park on Wildwood for 3 hours a day. I literally drove away with a branch sticking into my bus because I didn't have enough hands to get it all away from my bus door.
That's what I want to find out.
I honestly don't understand.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. Do you remember when they made that change?
I would say it was maybe 3 years ago, shortly after Moore Brewing moved in, and they started doing those special events, and people were lined up all the way down the Great Western Trail to get to Moore's to get some of their special beer. And then there were cars lined up. They haven't done any of those special events in years. In years.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for that, and we'll look into that.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right.
Laurel,
I'll keep coming back into you too.
if I may ask, Laurel, what's your address on Wildwood?
No, my address is 50 South Charles.
Okay,
I'm on the corner of Wildwood and Charles.
gotcha. Just so when I go by, I can look.
Oh, absolutely.
He's gonna stop by, wants a drink.
Coffee.
Thank you. Tina?
Yes.
Did we already? Yes, we did. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all three?
That's all, yeah, that's all four. Yeah,
You can come back.
okay, sorry about that. Okay. I guess that's all. Obviously, the three have already talked. So we're moving on to item number 7, presentations. We have a printout from the Bike, Pedestrian, and Transit Subcommittee. Bob, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I did this in the effort to save time or so we can get to the heart of the agenda.
Okay.
So I just will mention, we met on Thursday, September 26th. We talked about our goals for 2025. We are looking at village parking mandates as it affects bike parking. We got an update on the DePage Rail Safety Council. They're having their biannual conference Thursday, October 24th. The title of the conference is Prevent Tragedy on the Tracks, Sharpening Our Focus on Pedestrian Safety, and then some community outreach items. We will have a bike valet at Brewfest this coming Saturday. And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to add to that. There was a comment during our presentation about educating our schools and our communities about pedestrians and bike safety and stuff. Bob, that's what your committee is out there very forcefully going to all these community events and talking about that. So I think we are making a positive step forward to try to get that out to everybody and be educated. I believe you've already talked to even some of the schools. So I want to thank you for that and just let the public know that we do have an active part in our village on doing this. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to move on to approval of the minutes. Approval of our August 6th minutes. Do we have any comments?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for the August 6th, 2024 meeting.
Anybody second it?
Second.
Okay.
West Camp?
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays? Okay, been approved. Approval of our September 3rd meeting. Do we have any comments on that?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
In a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? You approved that one, too. The second was Bob.
Okay.
Moving on to old business, item number 900, parking restrictions on Princeton south of Belden. Any further conversations with, about that at all? Any comments?
I was there on Saturday. It was raining, there weren't a lot of cars there, but I did notice that there were a few cars, like where that paved parking area is. Beyond that is a grassy area where a couple cars were, 3 or 4. There weren't a lot of people there, but I did see an older woman with a small child trying to walk through that muddy area instead of taking the pathway. And I did talk to one of the residents there, and he didn't really seem to think any action needed to be taken. But again, it was raining, so it wasn't as populated as it might have been another day.
Okay. Any other comments? Anybody else been out there at all on Saturday? All right. I don't think we have any, the one person, resident, has said anything more about this?
Well, we had 2 residents provide feedback. Obviously, there was the resident who attended actually 2 meetings ago.
Right.
and spoke, and then the emailed comments that were read at the meeting.
How much of that area is Villa Park?
All of it.
I didn't realize, my earliest route, I go down Belden, and I didn't realize that was Villa Park.
Up until Armitage is pretty much all Villa Park.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Because there's a lot of two-sided parking going on all over.
Well,
I can tell you because I'm a bus driver that goes through there every morning. I mean, I literally go down this street and then up this street, and there's a lot of two-sided parking. I didn't realize that was allowed.
Okay. Do we want to keep this on as, yes?
My concern with that location is that the west side of the street is where the fire hydrants are. And the street is relatively narrow to begin with. So I'm a little concerned about if we leave parking on street, we're potentially creating a hazard or a difficulty for fire personnel to get up and down that street, get to the hydrants that they need to get to. So if we're gonna do anything, I think I would look to have no on-street parking, since that parking strip is there. It wouldn't seem to be a hardship to the residents by not allowing on-street parking.
The rest of us aren't allowed to park on the street all night.
I'm wondering about the fire hydrants. Now, normally in Villa Park, that's the side of the street that has the water main, and there's generally no parking on those sides of the street. I wanted
Right.
to ask Kevin if that's the case on Princeton there, that there is no parking on the side of the street where the water main is.
Currently, there are no parking restrictions at all on Princeton south of Belden. And that's obviously the reason for discussion on this topic. Just to reiterate something I've mentioned previously, even though I think there's been a misunderstanding amongst commissioners that the side of a street where the water main and the fire hydrants are located is automatically prohibited from having vehicles parked there. That's not true. Every street is ordinanced separately. Every side of every street is ordinanced separately, and it's when a street is being considered for parking restricted on one side or the other, it's then that the fire hydrant locations are taken into account. So you're correct in that the fire hydrant side typically is the no parking side, but that's not ordinance because the hydrants, it's ordinance as the east, west, north, south.
I was under the impression that, yes, it was all ordinance, but I thought pretty much every street in the village was covered that way.
Many, many are. There's a number, this particular location on Princeton that is not.
And as she mentioned, there's parking on both sides of the street that she sees. Is the other areas such as Belden?
There are other areas, yes, where parking is not prohibited on either side by ordinance.
Is there any particular reason for that?
I really don't know. To be honest, the answer is, I'm not sure why that is.
Oh, isn't it because that area is unincorporated?
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's our village.
But maybe it was at one time, and when it got incorporated, we just didn't get around to making those ordinances.
Well, it's mostly undeveloped. There's hardly any curbs or sidewalks over there.
That's true.
That's correct.
Sidewalks, there are. Most every street up there has sidewalk.
Okay.
Most.
Yes, Bob?
I did visit the area on Saturday, maybe around 1:45, and there were no cars there. I did notice that they put a porta potty in one of the parking spaces.
I saw that too.
The thing that concerns me or I'm interested about is at the very end of the street where it dead ends, there's a residence. They're building a house there.
Actually, I think it's two houses.
Two houses?
Two houses.
Okay. And the street seems to narrow even more there. I'm wondering how that will affect.
So regarding the two new homes that are being built there, I can confirm that the developer is required as a part of those construction projects to extend the width of the road in front of those two homes.
Okay.
I don't recall off the top of my head what the required width is, but it will be much wider than what is effectively, right now, a private driveway to those two southernmost properties.
So it'll be at least as wide as it is.
I believe so. Again, I don't want to quote the exact width and be wrong, but I believe it will be on par with the width of the road north of those two properties.
Okay, that's the only question I had.
Where are they building them?
Down here.
Far north
here?
end on the east side.
Of Princeton?
South end?
On the west.
On Princeton?
The two houses?
Right here.
I keep on.
Those are on the north end. Two houses.
Okay, south end.
Yep. South and west.
So, do we want to leave this as is, leave it around, see?
Yeah, I can't really see it.
Maybe we can leave it on at least until the end of soccer and baseball season, you think? And just keep an eye on it for a while?
Well, I'm willing to leave it on for the soccer season. I'm not going to wait and go through the,
South.
Well, I meant baseball,
It
that there's
narrows.
currently some baseball being
goes-
played.
oh, okay.
There, it
Let's put it this way until the winter.
Sounds good.
Then
I would
feeds
like
through
to
those
just
two
keep
houses
an eye on it and
and
see if
Okay.
anything stands out.
Because I'm here. and
No,
it's not-
they're rebuilding these.
All right, so we'll leave that on and discuss that a little bit further.
Their shit is.
Moving on to item number 902, stop signs at Elm and Princeton. Any feedback on that?
The conversation that we had had at the last meeting was saying that if Elm and Princeton needs a stop sign, then Elm and,
Might be, yeah.
'Cause it doesn't even look like-
like, all of the other
Satellite.
cross streets again, that cross Elm need a stop sign too. You create a situation where people are ignoring the stop signs in total because
see.
there's too many of them in a row.
Here.
I thought the one commissioner said that there had been a study done and the state said we couldn't put that many stop signs along that.
I see.
It's been looked into on previous occasions on Elm and on Division. And the decision had been made previously not to add additional stop signs.
Jay.
Yes.
Stop signs.
We had a similar situation on Elm, just east of Ardmore at Cornell, back a few years back.
Yes.
And we had the study performed, and it was deemed that it was too close to Ardmore in order to have a stop sign at that point. That would probably fall in place for that same intersection, it's just on the west side.
Yes, Bob?
This is a question for Kevin. Am I correct in saying that there is a road project taking place on Elm? Is that in the future, or?
It is in the capital improvement plan, but there is nothing that's imminently moving forward.
Okay.
Okay.
What is that capital improvement project?
It's in the 5-year capital improvement plan.
Jay,
Yes.
has there been a warrant study done at this intersection?
Not to my knowledge, Kevin. Nope.
Would it hurt to do that before we recommend or not recommend based on the warrant study? Usually gives us
Some idea.
some idea.
We
or-
will have to check with the village manager and, I guess, the engineering department to see if we can,
Let me look into what the scope of a study would be. I think, I guess, kind of touching on what some of the other commissioners have mentioned, I would tend to agree that Princeton and Elm is probably no better or worse than any of the other 3 uncontrolled intersections on Elm between Addison and Ardmore. And so I don't know that it makes sense to study one without taking a comprehensive look at all of them. But let me have some conversations and try and determine what level of effort that would entail. Sure.
where's the fire department in reference to that?
Up on the north side of the tracks.
Oh, on the north side, okay, I'm in the
Yeah,
wrong
there.
spot, okay.
Take a look at every single intersection in the city
Again, got my directions.
There is a stop sign, I think, is it Harvard or?
It's Harvard.
So it's only another block or two. I mean, the people do get stopped.
Yes.
It's not like they just freehand all the way from Ardmore to Addison.
Correct.
So there is a stopping in the middle. Do we really want to be looking to be putting stop signs a block off of Ardmore, having traffic potentially back up to Ardmore?
Okay,
My thought on the Warren study is if we decide we don't want to do anything, we have that to back up what we're saying.
At what cost?
It's not very expensive, is it?
Let me look into what the
We'll look
level of
into
effort
that.
would be. I
we'll
Just
address
do a
it
don't know off the top of my
next
head.
meeting
No.
in reference to it.
What are you
One
talking?
thing I would like to mention is that the
Take it off the
MUTCD
No, not me.
specifically prohibits us from considering stop signs for use as speed control devices.
Oh, no, I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that.
I just
This
want to
is-
reiterate for everybody's reference.
My thinking is that if we're doing this for safety, and as you just said, we have a number of streets there, are we going to stop sign every one of them?
I wouldn't
fair
unless the
question.
Warren study says to.
I'm sorry?
I wouldn't unless the study says to. A warrant study would give you legal right to do that. I wouldn't necessarily do it, but I wouldn't do it unless they recommended it. You see what I'm saying?
No, I get it.
Can they put a speed bump
But
on
that's what I'm
that?
saying,
No?
but we're controlling it by speed, but we can't do that because of the speed.
I know.
That's what I'm
Well,
saying.
speed bumps run
So why
into
are we
trouble,
considering a
particularly with
study?
plowing.
If they want to.
No, but we can't.
You want to
Okay.
listen to cars go thump, thump, thump,
Can't.
thump?
All right.
We're talking about it because
Just
we can't.
a quick note in reference to it. We did have that one incident that was at one of the intersections. I don't remember which one was it.
It was at Elm Princeton.
Elm Princeton?
Elm and
Okay.
Princeton.
However, we have not had any other incidents in the near past.
Sergeant Landa indicated that last meeting, you weren't here, Jay, he indicated that at last meeting that in 17 years, he's seen very few accidents up in that area.
So, at the moment, we'll table it for tonight.
Until we get information from.
Yeah, Kevin will. Yeah, okay, and, what am I thinking of here?
I'm just going to pend it.
Yeah, I think we should just pend it, and leave it as is.
On both those, 902
On
and
both
3?
those. Once we check to see how much a warrant study does involve, we'll bring it back. And also with that, we might have a little idea in reference to, will the village go ahead and warrant that we could do that? So, all right.
Hey, okay. Hey, when you're looking that up, because like I say, we did a warrant study at Cornell and Elm. And the criteria that they had with the distance between Cornell and Ardmore, the stop sign, that may apply to that same intersection. It's just a mirror image, just the other side. It's west of Ardmore rather than east. That information might
Do
be
you
useful.
happen to recall how long ago that was? Because that's not ringing a bell for me, so I'm thinking it was before my
That
time
was
on the
about,
commission.
it's been within the past 4 years, I know
I
that.
think a little longer than
A little
that.
longer
Yeah,
than that.
it was
6,
before-
7,
that was-
5, 6 years ago.
I'm thinking between 5 and 7 years.
Pandemic, I know that for sure.
Oh, okay, it was, but I'm just saying the criteria in that warrant study,
Sure,
whether or not spending thousands and thousands of dollars on a warrant study, and they're gonna give us the exact same information, that's a mirror image, it's just like I say, the distance between, east side versus west side of Ardmore.
Sure, I'm just looking for a time reference so I can
Right.
narrow
Yeah,
down
when
the
you're
the
looking for it, it
range.
might be easier.
And you say it's a Warren study, W-A-R?
Warrant.
Warrant.
Warrant study.
Is it warranted is really what it comes down
Warrant,
to.
got it. Thank you.
And if I remember right, well, okay, I have my opinions on it until we discuss it further. We'll go from here. So we'll table both 902 stop sign at Elm and Princeton and table 903 stop sign at Division in Princeton. Moving on to item number 904, Traffic and Safety Commission's 2025 budget that has been handed in. I cannot tell you any more about it at this moment, but soon as I find out what they decide to be our final number, I will then let everybody know. We can leave this on as an agenda item, as a reminder to check in and see where that ends. Yes, Bob?
I would just interject that it wouldn't hurt for commissioners to lobby village trustees to say, our budget was cut. This is our reasoning for an increase to $2,500. Trustees don't normally have input on specific items, but I think if we would lobby a trustee or a couple trustees, I think we could maybe make a difference, so.
Well, I guess a good place would be this Saturday, because isn't there coffee with the board on this Saturday? Yeah. So that would be, if anybody wants to do that.
What time is that?
I think it's 9 o'clock.
I think so.
I believe it's 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Huh?
I want to do that.
I might
So-
do that. Why do we want 2,500?
So did we,
Why do we want
when is the final,
2,500?
when is the final number due, Bob?
Once they have a higher.
Budget's
budget, drop
approved
the
in
budget down.
December.
For things like
When
signs
did-
and
when
stuff
did we
like
hear
that.
from
We're trying to
When is our
mediate
final number due?
all the work
Was
from
it-
We
Kevin.
submitted a budget.
Okay,
Finding somebody
Was
to
it
make
500?
question.
2,500.
that seems to be a
500 on
problem.
here. I only saw 500, that's what we currently have.
But go ahead, if you know some
2,500.
trustees, talk to them, see
Got it.
where it goes, and go from there. But we'll leave this on and move on. Okay, moving on to item 905, pedestrian signage and high visible crosswalks at St. Charles and Ardmore. Any further?
Yeah, I can give a quick update on that. The contractual pavement marking work is expected to begin sometime next week. Doesn't mean that we'll get to that intersection within the first few days, but I think they're expecting a week to a week and a half of work, so at some point in the next 2 to 3 weeks, the striping should be completed. As to the signs that we had proposed, the Operations Division has those in stock, just has not had a chance to put them up yet, so we're working towards that. I do understand from the minutes and from the video from the last meeting that there was further discussion about the possibility of
Crosswalk, and then 4 months later, she's all sitting on her board.
taking things a step further than the stop for pedestrian signs and going to something along the line of
Kevin to say, okay, whatever time she had.
something along the lines of no right turn on red prohibited outright. I don't know if that's something the commission is interested in pursuing as well or not, but.
You see that more often now, that they say no turn on red when pedestrians are present.
pedestrians
It's
are
just,
present.
I've seen it a lot more. I don't know that we need to do it, but it is something to consider.
Yes,
It's
Bob?
30 meters.
So
100 feet.
just recalling our conversation, our concern was putting up signage or taking measures that were enforceable, and that would protect pedestrians and bicyclists, and whether or not the signage that was suggested is actually enforceable. In other words, could a driver who violated it be ticketed? That's what we were concerned about. At least that's my recollection.
And I don't think it can be enforceable unless there's an ordinance on it, am I correct?
Well, I believe that the signage that was proposed, which was state law, stop for pedestrians and crosswalks, certainly is enforceable.
It is
That's
enforceable.
already a state law.
But they
Okay.
have to be in the
In a
crosswalk.
crosswalk.
That is accurate. That is accurate. That said, there is no, again, my understanding, there's no village ordinance that would be required for enforcing that now. I'm sorry, for posting those signs now and enforcing them now. Whereas no turn on red, and even I think no turn when pedestrians are present would require a village ordinance to be adopted by the board to accompany that and for that to be enforceable. That was why staff had proposed these as a relatively quick addition that could be put up without a whole lot of bureaucracy going to here at this commission for recommendation, subsequently the board for adoption.
It has to be less than 300 feet.
Yes, Joe?
Well, I, for one, first of all, I don't like these signs. They do not seem, when I see this sign, it doesn't seem authoritative enough. I would rather have a simple statement that says, no right turn on red when pedestrians are present. Very simple, clear cut, you don't have to sit there and figure out what it means. As far as whether we need an ordinance or not, I have actually spoken to a couple of the trustees about this, and I would almost, let me put it this way, let me ask this. Would the commission be willing to recommend an ordinance that says you may not turn right on red when pedestrians are present at any red light in town?
I would be happy to recommend that.
Whether it's Villa in St. Charles, Addison, St. Charles, Ardmore, St. Charles.
That's what we have on hand right now, and we're going to put up, yes.
I don't think it's necessary.
Why? Why was one street more important than another?
Well,
I mean, so for instance, I mean, I go to St. Charles and Ardmore all the time on my bike. All the time. I don't have any issues whatsoever crossing that street with the current,
Well,
as it's currently at this point. I mean, I don't see the issue with anything at this point. I have zero issues.
okay.
I mean, I'm just
So
saying,
what's
I
wrong
don't
with
think there's anything
the
wrong with it.
sign that we're proposing to put up there that says,
I think it's too cartoony. I don't think it's authoritative
It is what
enough.
it is.
I wouldn't put the pictures. I would just
think it's
simply
a waste of
put
money.
no right turn on red when pedestrians are present.
however, isn't there something about the pictures and that, isn't there? in
Yeah, I guess for those commissioners who are not currently looking at it, page 37 of 39 of the package shows the
Coming from
the sign that
there's
staff was
signs all over
proposing.
town.
That is an MUTCD standard
I'm gonna
sign.
throw that back at you.
So there's very limited options for us to choose from without some sort of associated ordinance change. And the no turn on red when pedestrians are present and no turn on red would require those ordinances to be enacted in order for those signs to be posted.
Okay.
So, something for the commission to consider.
So, what I look at is, since we're doing the striping, and we can put those signs up because we do have them in stock, I think that's a quick remedy to the situation that we have over there. And is it a couple years off in reference to the intersection improvement?
The 3 segments of Ardmore Avenue are moving forward through the IDOT, well, the federal Phase 1 project process through IDOT.
So, can you refresh my memory, what phase would that be, this intersection?
All Phase 1 is going to proceed as a single effort for all 3 projects,
Okay, okay.
if that answers the question.
That answers it. Okay. Yes.
Okay, I'm not sure if I am allowed or not. Do we really want a quick remedy or a remedy that's gonna work? I guess is my question.
What is the actual problem?
In looking at this, in my opinion, it's a little confusing to me. I would just rather have the sign say, no turning, you know what I mean? Coming from a person living in the village, driving, it's just, I don't really see this sign like this anywhere.
I think I like the no turn on red
Mm-hmm.
while pedestrians are present. I think, I see several of those by
Exactly.
Addison schools.
Something that you see
where I
more
drive.
often than this.
I don't think saying no turn on red there, I think that's gonna back traffic.
Oh, no, just when
Right.
pedestrians are present,
Or
yeah.
Avenue, you wouldn't get anywhere. But yeah, I think you're right.
I just think that a quick fix, and when you stop and think about it, wouldn't that cost us more money in the long run than to fix it again? And we should just fix it maybe the right way the first time? I'm just asking questions.
Well,
What the actual problem is?
you are correct,
What is the actual
and that's how we
problem?
would like to do it,
Actual problem.
okay? In reference to this, there's a little bit more involved in reference, they're planning to do an intersection and improvement over there, which then would fall into, and Kevin, correct me, we would then be having possibilities of different ordinances that could be written up, and we have to follow some of the state information too that's being incorporated into that intersection.
I apologize, you mentioned ordinances, but are you asking about ordinances in reference to the upcoming projects, or?
Well, when you end up doing signs, okay, some signs are enforceable, some are not.
Without additional ordinances, correct,
That's
correct.
correct. So, but in order to do that, and what everybody's saying is, they're talking about other signs to possibly install instead of the sign that has been proposed and that we have on hand at the moment.
Yes.
So, can we put, and we'd have to determine what sign we want to have there, okay, as a committee, and then go from there, and then find out what the process is, if, how that falls into being, I believe, enforceable.
I feel like it's already pretty clear. If we want to have a no turn on red when pedestrians are present, which people are saying makes sense, and is clear, we have to have a new ordinance in the village to say, no turn on red when pedestrians are present is the way that the traffic rules in the village are.
If that's the case, though, if you're saying that we have to get an ordinance, which I don't know that we do for that sign, because it's reiterating what the law already is.
Exactly.
Saying that you cannot turn on red, and a lot of people don't know this, you cannot turn on red when there are pedestrians present. If they're standing on the corner that you're about to turn around, you have to wait for the light to change or that person to get out of there.
Right.
Yes.
And and for us to say no turn on red when pedestrians are present seems to me that it's enforcing a law that's already there.
Is it already the law that you can't
You
turn
cannot-
on red?
Yes.
So why are we?
Ever since it was
If you're
instituted.
in the crosswalk, yes.
No, if you're not in the crosswalk, if you're standing on the, like, if you're up on the corner on the curb,
If the
can you
rule,
turn on red?
Yes.
the law says
Can't do it.
when pedestrians are present, not standing in the crosswalk. When the law says where pedestrians are present. So someone may step out in front of you. They may be thinking they're going to cross the street, either way, or they may not. But the intent of the law is to not have that conflict.
I have a question.
Vicki?
I'm sorry, it's been a while since we started this, whatever. Exactly why are we considering this again?
Somebody
Just-
came and approached us about this, I believe.
Who?
Me.
You. So why exactly are we doing this?
Because I hear you say that you have never had a problem at that intersection. That is the intersection at which I have been able to touch a turning vehicle while pushing a stroller in the crosswalk more times than any other intersection in Villa Park.
So, but we went back and looked at our studies, that we saw that there weren't very many accidents or any such things at this particular cross-section, correct? Have there been any other studies that we have come across that have actually shown that this has been an accident prone or anything else that have happened in this crosswalk area?
Yes, Bob?
I travel that intersection every day,
Yes.
multiple times, and I've witnessed people not, making a right-hand turn, not being aware or not respecting pedestrians that are entering.
And go
You know,
to any crosswalk in this town, and that's pretty much what could happen.
Right. But that particular intersection, there is a lot of pedestrian traffic, bicycle traffic, people going to Jewel, people going to Walgreens.
I could do that on Villa and Ardmore. I witnessed it on Ardmore.
Yeah, I'm not getting into,
But that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, we could do this at every cross-section.
I wouldn't mind.
I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, but we already have a law that says you can't do that.
And all we're really doing is telling people that the law is there.
Correct. I'm just saying, but then why
Which
are
would
we?
be totally fine. If it's already state law that you can't turn when pedestrians are present, can't turn on red when pedestrians are present, I would be totally happy to put up a sign that says
law
that.
goes that way. I believe the law is, as soon as the person steps into the crosswalk legitimately, then the
I don't think it's gonna matter because
vehicles
as soon
have
as
to
you get
stop
past that sign,
and
no
let
one
the
notices
person
the sign.
cross.
Where's the sign?
No, you can't walk out into live traffic and expect
right
everybody
now.
to stop.
When they first instituted that law, and this is the simplest explanation I have for it.
Welcome to our.
They introduced it and they said, this is how you do it. You get there, you wait for any pedestrians to cross. This is before the pedestrian in the crosswalk law was in effect.
I mean, it's just.
This is back in the 70s when they first instituted the turning on red, because if you remember, that wasn't allowed here up until like the mid-70s. So when they did this, they said, you have to wait for the pedestrians to do what they're going to do.
It's the same.
Now, if we want to look up the statute and see exactly what it says, I think we should.
I'm doing that right
I
now.
think we should do
So,
that.
with
Fine.
that, I'm just saying, we'll leave it on.
Okay, so you're gonna hit, okay, so
Obviously,
you're gonna be
because
here, see, the
it's a
problem
big
is,
discussion.
where you're
We'll
gonna
come back
put the
with
sign and where
more
the people
facts
stand are
in reference
completely
to it.
different.
And
We're putting the sign and where the
we're,
people stand.
we're okaying
is correct.
that
It doesn't
we
matter.
highlight,
You're not gonna know.
restrike
But
that
this is where the
intersection.
people
Are you
stand in the
doing the
crosswalk,
intersection or
especially
just
people
the
are over here
crosswalk?
and you're not gonna cross.
Crosswalks and the stoppers.
You're not gonna see the people.
Crosswalks and the
Because you
stop
have a box
bars.
here and whatever, you're not gonna see the
And
people.
then,
Doesn't matter.
we'll look into
It
the
does
Doesn't
not
matter, it's the
matter.
law
the
anyway.
difference
But that's what I'm
in
saying, it
the
doesn't matter.
different laws
Why put a
and
sign
how
up?
they're exactly worded.
I think it's intended to be vague.
People aren't gonna see the people standing.
I'm sure.
Doesn't matter. Tell me.
But
People
the only
are
one
gonna do it.
that I know of, I don't remember back
go.
then,
Yeah.
when that was totally
That's what I'm
written,
saying.
but I do know the newer.
Sign up here,
I believe you.
people over
But
here.
I do
We
know,
had to go through it, yeah, we had to go
Here.
through it.
I do
And
know
read
it,
the
as soon
law.
as somebody gets
Here?
into the
happen.
crosswalk,
I'm gonna tell
that
you right now.
they have the total right of way.
Well, that
Never
is,
gonna
that's a recent law within the last 10 years.
It's not about
But
the
prior
person
to that, it was
standing.
always,
It's not
as
about
I
the person
understood
standing
it,
Sure
there
it is,
going
because-
this way
turn on
because
red,
this
you
traffic
know,
is
if
moving.
there's
No, because
pedestrian
you're talking
presence,
about the people
you
standing
can't
here.
turn
They're
on
gonna
red.
press here.
You
They're
can if there's nobody there.
have
And
to
even
check.
if, I think if it's on the other corners, let's say,
Because
you
this
can do
traffic
so,
is going
because I think it has to
green.
pertain to the corner that you're
Thus,
involved
these
with.
people here are
Okay.
not supposed to be.
But
crossing.
I
Let's get a
can't- don't quote me
clarification.
on it.
that way,
Yeah,
they're gonna cross.
we'll get a clarification on
They
that,
can't
on the
turn-
both laws.
She's talking
Okay, I like, you know what, we could
No, no,
probably
no,
find
she's
it in
talking
the,
about these people can't turn on
rules of the
red.
road book.
It's red.
Probably,
I'll try and pick one.
When
a
the
current one.
pedestrian is present.
if you can find one.
Correct, you
I
can't
think it's
turn.
all
so
online.
There's no pedestrian here.
Makes sense, too.
And this, it's red.
Maybe able to print
Now
that
he
out.
can't turn. Now he can turn.
Okay, so we're gonna table
So
this
here,
until
over here,
next,
he can't see. No, it's about
next
this
meeting.
person over here.
And we'll have information about how the laws are written on those two items. So
The person
we're gonna
going
move
this way, it's
on
about the person going this way.
to new
Got a
business.
green light.
Doesn't matter, but if there's nobody,
wh-
if there's nobody.
Which we are moving on to new business, Vicky. Thank you. 906, crosswalks across Ardmore Avenue near Lufkin Park,
Oh, here we go.
okay? It's, Joey has brought this to our attention that somebody came up to him and talked to him about an incident just recently.
Several, actually, yes.
Several people or several incidents?
Several people
Several
have
people.
brought this up to me.
Okay. As far as that incident that we are talking about, I believe, how should we bring this up?
I'm really not that worried about the specific incident. It just does seem to me to make a little bit of sense that, you know, this is a younger kids' park. 8, 9, 10 years old, 11 years old. They're not necessarily gonna be willing or think to walk to the end of the block, which is not close. It's several houses down to get to the end of the block.
To get to Jackson and Ardmore from Lufkin,
Yeah.
it's the length of one house.
It's
No,
uphill
it's-
both ways.
It's a couple.
It is,
It's a couple. For a little,
within
for a
300
little,
feet?
for a little kid, I'm talking. now.
okay.
You know, I'm not talking about you or I'm talking about a 10-year-old kid. He's not walking all the way to the end of the block just to get across. So I just think it'd be safer for the kids to put a crosswalk, perhaps where the sign is, the sign in front of Lufkin is, maybe going across Ardmore there.
Okay. I am going to add on to this situation. Okay. Roughly where you want to put it is roughly the same distance that you need to walk to Jackson's Crossing, which is a four-way crossing. Okay, because I went and looked at that this weekend.
Where, I'm missing something.
Okay.
I'm talking right in front of Lufkin. You're talking about them walking to the end of the block.
I'm talking to them to walk about 100 feet to the intersection at Jackson and Ardmore, which is a four-way stop with crosswalks going, you would be going from the south side of Jackson to the north side of Jackson to cross over where there's another crosswalk for over the to the east side of the Ardmore Avenue. That's a four-way stop, and I believe, I'm gonna guess, just eyeballing it, it's about 100 feet.
It's about 300.
And if you do 100 feet going south, it's a little bit more, I'm gonna say eyeballing it from the park, going
South.
south to the next street
To Van Buren.
to Van Buren, is that what it is?
Talking about
Van Buren.
putting something maybe
Okay.
like here.
No, but it's too close to a four-way stop.
It's,
Then you're gonna have people having to stop right there again.
we are not set
It's a
up
hill.
for that. We don't
a
have a
hill.
stop sign for them to cross.
No, no stop sign. I'm not looking for a stop
I
sign.
understand that, but what I'm looking at is for safety, it's much safer for the kids to go north and cross over than to go south.
Crosswalk would encourage them to cross there. It's a wide cross.
I'm getting there, okay?
No.
And a crosswalk where you're talking about, Joey, even if it's closer to the park, is encouraging them to actually cross at that spot there after cars are coming out of a stop and not being ready to stop again, per se,
And it's a hill.
okay? But the other thing is, we don't have, I believe, we do have walks over there, okay. I thought there wasn't, yeah, that's right. We don't have any walks going down this way. It's just going parallel to.
Correct.
There are
Ard-
north-south walks on
Yeah.
east and
Yeah.
west side of Ardmore, if that's
Ardmore,
the
yes.
question.
Which is the way that they're channeling the high school kids from the high school. That's how they're supposed to take their routes.
Sure, I'm thinking about the 8, 9, 10-year-olds.
I understand
Why-
that.
But
Crosswalk.
why did the rest of us do okay when
Yeah.
Matthew Poole was there? And I went there every day.
I don't know.
all day long.
Yeah, what happened when there was
Ma'am,
the pool
thank you
there?
for your comment for a moment, okay? All right, so there is also, along with this, there is, as was just mentioned, there's an roadway improvement that's
Right.
coming up in the near future, which we could then address possibly the situation for putting that back in there. Because there's a lot of work and a lot of cost to put a crosswalk over there in reference to it. And it's not that cheap. And I don't know, do we need a warrant study to put a crosswalk in?
Staff does not feel comfortable putting one in without any further effort given to it and just going out there and doing it. I believe somebody had mentioned the speed of vehicles coming off of, well, I'm sorry, the fact that vehicles heading southbound from the intersection of Jackson and Ardmore had just stopped, weren't necessarily thinking about doing it again. Staff also has concerns about the elevation change from that intersection. You know, you got cars not just coming off a stop sign, but coming at for Villa Park, what is a fairly steep slope downward.
Yes. From the south?
Yeah.
Or from the north?
Southbound traffic coming off.
Both
Jackson.
ways.
Okay.
And so I guess I should say, staff is fully in support of the idea of having a crosswalk, some sort of pedestrian path of travel to get from the east side of Ardmore to the west side and vice versa. We just don't want to make the mistake of rushing in there and putting something anywhere because it, you know, is better than nothing, and then realize without having done our due diligence that we put it in the wrong place, and now we've got a much bigger problem on our hands. Add to that the fact that, Jay, as you mentioned, we do have the upcoming project. Staff would much prefer to put in with that so that the cost can be partially absorbed by the federal funds that are assigned to the project. And also, we're gonna have to do all those study efforts and whatnot with the project anyways, so we would rather not spend the money on that twice.
And along with that, I did ask Kevin to go ahead and see if the police department has had any other incidents besides the one that just happened
Right.
in the last 10 years And he has not, the police department has not come up with anything at the moment.
Well, the last 10 years is kind of a different story because basically for the last 8 years, there was nothing there, right?
I don't think it's been that.
Since the pool closed,
Demolished in 19, closed in, I think, 16 or 17.
so for the past
Yeah.
7 years, 8 years?
I'm just
So go back.
going back
15.
on records. in
No,
reference
no,
to that.
well, again, we have to consider that fact, I think.
Sure, I understand that. I understand, but we haven't had an incident in reference to there. And the most recent incident was not the vehicle, the driver of the vehicle. It was actually the person, the pedestrian slash bicyclist
Well, as the person on the bicycle.
on the bicycle. That,
The car?
yes,
Okay, so the car did not hit the bicyclist hit the car.
that's right.
Interesting.
So, and there was no dispute about it. So, I'm just gonna let you have a few minutes.
Sure.
Okay.
My concern is, you say there's a stop sign in Jackson. The next stop sign that you have from, if you want to cross from the east to the west, is at High Ridge. So you have between Jackson and High Ridge, all those kids on the east that want to come west. Not looking for a stop sign, just looking for something to slow down the traffic. If we do a traffic study, I would suggest, because my bedroom window faces Ardmore, and I can tell you, every morning, no kid walks to school anymore. They don't get, they get picked up from school, so those would be key times. And at dinner time at 5 o'clock, they are backed up on Ardmore, going both north and south. Because a lot of people use Roosevelt and St. Charles as cut through to get to Elmhurst, to get to Lombard. So if a study's being done, let's not do it at 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. Let's do it on a weekday. School time, when school lets out, and at dinner time.
Okay. The point of the matter is, we do want to do it, and we do want to do it right, and along
I
with
understand.
our funding and everything else. Yes, Bob?
So, I live close to Lufkin Park.
Okay.
The park is being used quite a bit. I mean, it's crowded. There's multiple bike racks there. I've been there when a lot of bikes there. In the city of Chicago, they do have reduced speeds around parks. You may know that. And I'm just wondering if there's any sign, I know we don't want to have a proliferation of a lot of signage, but maybe something that would alert drivers, you're approaching a park, be extra, vigilant. I mean, we have
flashing yellow light?
signage for, school zones.
Yes.
Kids that
Why
play.
not signage for the parks, especially that park, because it's being heavily used?
I do know there is a sign out there, definitely going northbound, that is a rectangular yellow with
A diamond.
a diamond type, what do you want to say, saying that there's a park ahead.
Okay, I didn't notice it. Was not aware.
Now-
School zone for Willowbrook. Wouldn't the two kind of coincide? Wouldn't that slow people down, or is there a speed?
There is no school zone for Willowbrook on Ardmore,
Really?
really.
Wow.
It's only on High
So
Ridge.
far back.
Why?
I think because of the distance from the school itself.
Oh, the distance from the school
To the street, yeah.
Right.
I
So,
don't drive
but
to
there is
Willowbrook,
a sign, I know going
No judgment, I don't drive to
northbound.
Willowbrook.
I can't guarantee it going south,
see it.
I wasn't
I see
aware of
it,
that
yeah.
either.
There's a similar one on the other side,
Yeah, okay, all right.
so.
but I think
But there's no teeter-totter, sir.
So,
Maybe there are. I don't know.
Do we have on Ardmore, I thought we had talked about this in the past, do we have lines along, because it's a fairly wide street, that maybe denote bicycle paths or anything like that over there?
Not yet. It's part of the upcoming project.
Okay.
That is
And it's
accurate.
going to be-
Upcoming someday in the future. The status of all the bike projects in Villa Park is, eventually.
Well,
No, Carl, there are no bike lanes currently marked on Ardmore.
We don't have anything marking parking areas or anything like that along there either. do we?
Parking,
There
yes.
is parking,
is
yes,
parking,
there
yeah.
is.
That's what I was, I'm trying to picture it, I haven't been down there for a while, and
Yes. There is parking on, I'm gonna say, not
East
the
side.
hydrant side.
It's on the east, it's on the east
darn,
side.
I was gonna
East
get you on that, no.
It is the hydrant side?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it wasn't, because I thought there was a hydrant out in front of Lufkin. Okay. All right. So anyways, that is my input in reference to it.
When is
It's
this,
totally open to everybody else.
when is the Ardmore project gonna commence?
So just a little background on the Ardmore projects. There are 3 separate planned construction projects, but the preliminary engineering is expected to be completed as one effort. So this particular segment, which is from Roosevelt to Madison Street, probably has the least number of obstacles as far as IDOT and the feds go. So our hope is that this is going to be the segment that can actually move forward the quickest, but I say that without knowing yet what kind of obstacles we might be facing that we don't know about. So that's always the biggest consideration for these federally funded projects.
So, but, I mean,
Go ahead.
realistically, when would we expect, if we're waiting for this project, when would we expect something to happen, if it in fact did happen?
All 3 projects are planned
Just
for.
this crosswalk idea, something on this idea.
I'm sorry, you're saying if we were to remove it from the crosswalk from the larger Ardmore construction project?
No, you were saying you'd like to take care of it during that
Yes.
project, okay.
When's
So,
that project
if
happening?
we don't do something now,
Gotcha.
when would it actually occur?
It's expected to move forward in the next 3 years or so.
So three years from now?
It could
maybe
be as many
4?
as 3 years, yeah.
Okay.
So, does that mean with these being moving forward, will we have all the rest of our streets done prior to these being moving forward?
Different funding sources, so
So no.
I can't say for certain on either. I'm not gonna sit here and promise, I can't do that.
Interesting.
Is
Funding
there,
By the way, funding is involved with the type of classifications the different roads are, okay? And that's, when you said the other roads, what other roads are you talking
How
about?
about all the other roads that we started funding like way back when, like in 2000 and, what was it, 9 or whatever we passed?
Still on road
When we
referendum.
made the road referendum that we passed way back when and we still don't have our roads done?
I think they're, and I'm not gonna make this a big subject or
That's
not,
fine,
but
just curious.
I believe they're trying to stretch their money out on the funding from the road referendum, along with participating funds from the state and federal. Am I correct?
With external funding where available, yes. Obviously, we seek that out as much as we can, use it as much as we can to the point that it's still efficient, and use that to supplement other projects, yes.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry, I was a little confused. Did you say there's already a sign there announcing that there's a park?
Yes.
Where?
It's on both northbound and southbound Ardmore, on either side of the park.
We already have a sign there, there's a park.
I'll be honest.
There's
I
a red
drive down
sign.
that street all the time to the post office.
We did not, I'm so tired of you and your fucking sign. You always said we have so many fucking signs and you're telling me we didn't.
Honestly.
that ought to say something about the signage itself.
I want it to be safe for kids.
Going northbound,
across
it's
the-
just before you
learn
hit the
across
park.
street.
So that includes
to learn
the,
across the street.
I think, right where the pond is. Not the actual play park, but where the pond is.
But it's not on the side of the park, it's on the right, at the proper
It
side where
is on the right-hand side of, and it's also going southbound, it's on the right-hand side.
you. Interesting. I'll pay more attention tomorrow. That's to see. I recall seeing.
How many does it take?
Further comments from the,
I just have a question about this improvement on Ardmore. What are they looking to do?
Everything.
The scope of the work?
Resurface, rebuild?
The actual pavement in this location would be more of a resurfacing because of how wide the road there currently is, but the plan would be to resurface and add pedestrian amenities, pedestrian and bicycle amenities.
Okay, that's vague enough. It covers it for me now, thank you.
Okay. Do we want to leave this
Because of the
on?
hills, where the police would
Our
usually sit in the
agenda?
parking lot and wait for people to roll down there so they
Yes,
could-
Bob.
Just my reaction to that signage when you showed it to me, it's a little archaic. And I think maybe that's part of the reason people don't notice it. I mean, it's the symbol of two children on a teeter-totter. I mean, it's very archaic. I mean, it's, I don't know if there are actually any teeter-totters in that park.
Yeah, that's a good
know?
point. I don't think there are any.
Yeah, people may not even know what that is.
But isn't it, doesn't it have to be a standard
comments
state
over.
sign? I mean, that's.
I think that implies children playing, children at play.
Yeah.
That's just the
Yeah,
children.
I'd be interested.
It's basically a picture
I'm
of,
not doing well
I
today.
think, two kids on a teeter-totter.
But I'm gonna write back to this again.
It's a yellow triangle.
You're like slow, children at play.
Again,
Like, I drove down that road so many times a day, I've never noticed it. Probably because it's a picture. I mean, I don't know, I'm just telling you from a person living in this town who drives down that road all the time, I've never noticed that sign. Why can't it just be some verbiage?
So I don't think they go with
Yeah, we need
verbiages
to
too
use
much
their
more
symbols.
because of some, and
It's not
correct me,
like this
Kevin,
anymore.
isn't it some universal signage is what
It's not
they've
like that.
changed?
It's
so
not like that.
You have foreign people come, they can understand what the sign is, it's not reading letters.
Like this without the words,
Oh,
without the words.
really?
But I believe that,
Mm-hmm.
and again, I'm paraphrasing all of that in reference to it. So,
We see a lot of
here's what
signs.
we'll do. At the moment, Kevin will research to see if there's any updated signage,
There you go.
okay? And then we'll discuss this further at the next meeting.
Lots of
As to the signage itself, the answer would be no. The sign that is currently posted is the one that's currently allowed under the MUTCD. The only thing that could be changed with it is to go from the current, what's called the strong yellow, to the fluorescent yellow-green. I don't know if anybody has strong feelings on it, if people aren't noticing it now. I'm not sure that the color is going to make it more noticeable. But that would really be the only change permitted under MUTCD for the current signage.
Do we have signs like that, or do we have to go out and buy them?
I don't know off the top of my head. I would have to check.
Okay. Here's what's going through my mind right now is if we do have a signs like that,
That's it.
possibly
Jesus.
to install those and get rid of the other ones, just in case everybody's just so used to seeing that sign that the possibility a change and
Sad.
make them aware.
This is it.
Otherwise, I don't know what else to say at the moment.
I would go along with that. I think that maybe just having something that's a little bit more brighter or a different color would draw attention to it. It's like companies changing their brand. People get tired of seeing it, so they change their brand every now and then to get attention. I would put it in that way.
So you're thinking high fluorescent?
Spinner?
Yellow?
I'm really saying that is the only permissible change to that sign that the village can
For a
make.
while until people get
There's,
used to it.
there's no different symbology, no newer version. The only other option under the MUTCD is the different color that some would argue is more visible.
So there's none with words or anything like that? Like, nothing? Interesting.
Can you check on that and then talk about it next meeting?
Check on whether or
Do
not,
we already own one?
Do we
Is the question.
you're asking
Yeah.
about the cost of it, I will look into that.
Yeah. Cost if we don't already own one.
Okay,
Okay, and we go from there.
sure.
Or two, right?
Technically two.
Okay, so with that, I'm planning to just leave this on our agenda. We'll talk about next week, next meeting. And therefore, we will move on to commissioners' comments. Carl, we'll start with you and then just proceed down the line.
I'd just like to wish my sister an early happy birthday. It's next week. Won't say how old she is, though.
You look very happy about that.
Extremely.
Okay. Karen, you want to retaliate?
Yes, next month is election month. I will not be here because I will be driving out to DuPage Fair County to deliver the ballots.
Okay. I thought we'd do that electronically now.
Do it immediately after, and it's the first Tuesday of the month.
Okay.
And it's the same time as this traffic meeting, so I will be missing it.
Okay.
If I get done early enough, I might sneak in, but
I doubt you'll get
I
there.
doubt that.
Yes.
Because I usually don't get get home until like 9:30.
There's always some kind of complication.
Jack?
Other than happy birthday,
Thank you.
I don't have anything.
Okay. Tricia?
I have a quick question. If there is no striping on a crosswalk, where is the crosswalk as far as like legally
So,
in an intersection?
is it a hypothetical question, or do we have an actual intersection?
This is this is like, there's lots of intersections where there is no like striped crosswalk. And I was talking with my brother who lives in another state, and in his state, anywhere in the intersection at all is, in his state, is pedestrian crosswalk if there is no marked crosswalk. So that's my question.
So if there's no marked crosswalk, but there are curb ramps leading into the street, then the crosswalk that is unmarked is unofficially considered to be the path between those two curb ramps.
Okay, what if there are no curb ramps?
That's a different story. And I don't feel qualified to answer the question if that's the case. I think I'd prefer to defer to the police department on that one. So let me try and get an answer
I would love an answer.
and see if I can't provide some clarification on that.
Thank
I
you.
honestly don't know myself if there are no curb ramps, whether or not there would even be considered a crosswalk in the intersection, let alone whether or not the state statute on stopping, I assume that's the question is,
Yeah.
stopping for pedestrian and crosswalks. I don't know whether it would apply if there's no curb ramps or not.
All right,
I'll
thank
see
you.
if I can find out.
Todd?
Yeah.
Bob?
Yeah, very quickly, Victoria mentioned the Safe Streets for All and the DuPage Initiative. I went to the first open house at Elmhurst City Hall. It was very interesting. I'm happy to share I only had a couple cards that I collected, but I'm happy to share the link with folks. And there's a interactive map. You can, if you have a problem area within the county, you can make a note of that. At our last meeting, Jack had mentioned his concern about, I'm going to call them panhandlers. And when I went to Princeton and Belden on Saturday, I went down Addison Road, and at Addison and North Avenue, there were two panhandlers at that intersection, a gentleman in a wheelchair and a younger man. And it's my understanding that the gentleman in the wheelchair actually was hit at one point. This came up at a village board meeting. I did find an interesting page for the village of Gurnee. They have a whole page about panhandlers. They discourage people from giving them money because it encourages them to continue that behavior, that there are resources for them. I mean, in DuPage County, we have a whole facility now that for people who are homeless. So I'm happy to share that link as well. It mentions in the village of Gurnee, I think it's a state statute. I mean, you can be in the median, but if you get off the median into the street, that's a violation. So I don't know if this is something that we could enforce. You know, I'm happy to share that page. I thought it was interesting because they devote a whole page to panhandler behavior and how to discourage panhandlers. And so I thought that was rather interesting. And that's all I've got.
Thank you. We would have to, I think we brought that up, and the sergeant that was here said that, I think Oak Brook Terrace had something to do with it.
I think it was Oak Brook.
Oakbrook.
Oakbrook, there's a sign, yes.
Second Myers, yeah.
Yeah, something about it wasn't enforceable or something. And all I know is the police department here said that they're just not gonna touch it. But we could talk to them and see where we go with it. So, okay, Bob, thank you. Vicki?
So, just wanted to say, I know we all kind of live in the Midwest and so forth, but this past weekend has been very challenging for my family. I have to say, since the past 4 or 5 years, we have been going to Northeast Tennessee, as my son has attended school out there. So it has been pretty dramatic as we have been visiting out there and to see the devastation that has been going out there. We have very fortunately, we were able to get our son home on Thursday, for we had a family event this weekend, so we were able to get him home. But just to witness the devastation, as we have made many friends out there. If anybody witnessed all of those people standing on the lovely hospital this weekend, for 50 people staying in that hospital, my son's school is 10 minutes north of there. So that bridge we have been on very many times going down towards Asheville, and been to Asheville very many times, as well as the 15 minutes north is the town in which my son did his internship this weekend, which is pretty much washed away. So please, we all sit here and have our little petty problems. They have nothing. Fortunately, the school is very higher up, which a lot of the rain washed off. They had 3 very heavy days of rain prior to. I know I don't need to tell you the whole story, but that's what caused a lot of this rain as well, as the wash off prior to, and then the Helene coming through. We sit on traffic and safety. A lot of the roads will be rebuilt. The federal government will come in, the state of Tennessee will come in, the county will come in. Those funds will be there. Something near and dear to my heart is there's a animal shelter. It's called the Unicoi County Animal Shelter. It's UNICOI Animal Shelter. That will not be rebuilt. While they are looking for funds. If anybody is out there, they will not be receiving funds from any county. They will try to get FEMA funds. Humane Society is out there. If you feel the need, please feel free to go and donate to them. Because they will not be getting a lot of federal funds or anything like that to be rebuilt, not like the roads and so forth that will be out there. So all the animals were safe. They got 100 animals out wherever they possibly could. They are in animal shelters as well as foster families, but a lot of animals were also very much lost. So just kind of put little things in perspective, but it was very, very happy to say that all of our friends were very fortunate to save everybody was safe. So let's just put it that way. So, very happy about that. My son actually went home yesterday. He actually he flew into Tri-State County, which was basically their emergency center with that's where they're doing it at the Tri-County airport, which was really interesting for him. He's like, oh, this was interesting, and then going into Elizabethan, which was pretty much a disaster zone, and then going to school where it's kind of like nothing happened. Kind of like the microburst that came through here, it's like nothing happened on the south side. Total disaster on the north side, so it's kind of interesting, but very grateful that everybody pretty much, fatalities were pretty low, but, and the towns are working very heavily to make sure everybody's safe and getting back to normal, so just kind of throwing that out there.
Thank you.
But, yeah.
Joy?
I've got nothing.
Yes, Bob?
I bought an item for show and tell. So for the viewing audience, we have 100-plus signs available at the police station from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And Bike, Pedestrian, and Transit will be trying to distribute these at a few events, so.
Are you doing this weekend?
Pardon me?
You're not doing it this weekend, are you?
We could try and distribute them at Brewfest, but I don't think that's a great event for this.
I was just bringing that up, and I don't think so either, so.
I will note that there is a drive like your kids play here sign right at the corner of, I think, Van Buren and Ardmore. So.
We've gotten rid of half of the signs already?
No.
No, I don't think so.
We just said we had 100, that's why.
Well, 100 plus, I don't know, I wasn't gonna have them count, so.
Great
There
present.
you go.
That's it.
That sounds good.
Let's go.
All right.
Washington and Monterey.
My turn.
So, the only thing I have to say wait, Kevin. You're first. I'm first. Okay, Bob, I want to thank you very much for coordinating the presentation here today.
Oh, my pleasure.
I think it was very good. I think it was great for our village to have that, so people could see it if they're interested. Other than that, I apologize for not being here last meeting. It just worked out that that was the time I could go for a vacation, and I ran for it. So,
Gotta do
God
it.
bless.
Gotta do it when you can do it.
so,
I couldn't be here for other
okay.
reasons.
Kevin, any comments?
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Village staff is not here. Do we have a motion to adjourn this?
So made.
Second.
Okay, Carl's 1, Vicky's 2. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Nope. And therefore, we are closing this meeting, and it is 9:55. Thank you. Thank you for
Coming,
coming.
ladies.